I'd say that the most extreme example was in the lead up to the last election, where I had grown with a grain of salt an addiction of news media through phone, podcast, YouTube, etc., online.
You were watching like
6 hours.
6 hours of podcast
a day. If you don't know who your neighbors are, whose name are you going to call out to when you're in trouble, right? Like when you need help. And I was so struck by that. And then he proceeded to tell a story about how a guy was crushed by his own car in his driveway, and he didn't know his neighbors and wasn't able to call for help.
I think we, in some ways, trivialize and demonize stuff that isn't capitalist, right? Like, oh, how is that going to make you money? It only has a value if it makes money. Slow down. It's a big one that we forget, but it's like we need to slow our pace.
So true. Aaron and I were, I think, setting up this episode perfectly by talking about the ways in which people layer on small t traumas and cause emotional dysregulation due to their own suffering. They just project their suffering onto you when you were making a simple request to some folks for information on an amount that you need to put on a check, like taking things personally and then blaming you, right? Like the sort of false victim, right? Well, you said this word to us that we don't think is necessary, and it's just all diversion techniques instead of doing the thing that you asked, a simple request.
Right. And when we get to people that have neurodivergence, a lot of times what we're asking for is something direct. Like, we're not asking you to give it to us in a way that is very complex and assuming that we have different abilities and we've read your thousands of word response and we've taken out a magnifying glass and found exactly where you had already said something. Like, all we're asking for a lot of times is give us the straight, direct answer. Like, the simplest thing to do is, like, if I ask you a question, it's not reading into the intentions of, well, why did you ask that again? Or, da-da-da. It's like, well, because I may have missed information. Maybe that's on me. Maybe I missed the information, but I don't think so, right? Because we're pretty good at recognizing patterns, and we're pretty good at knowing, when something has been answered in a way that is concise and to the point, and really it gives us the information we're looking for, because we'll hone in on that. But if someone's like, I thought I've already answered you there, and they kind of gaslight you, right? And this gets into some of the stuff we're going to bring up today is this tendency of gaslighting people in general.
The ego, protecting an ego, insecurity, rage, anger, emotional dysregulation that you're not responsible for, but then is projected onto you in a moment of intense inefficiency.
And then, I'll own this too, because I bet a lot of our listeners experience this. It's when we get responded to in that way, when we get gaslit, they kind of try to correct our reality or say that whatever happened wasn't the way it happened. Then we end up getting flooded with emotions, dysregulated, and respond in kind oftentimes. Even if, we know it's in our better nature not to.
Oh, absolutely. This queen. Aaron just witnessed before we hit record. I got into my feels on Aaron's behalf. And it starts with Aaron did such a beautiful job of putting in into one email, a 1, 2, and 3 request. And 1, 2, and 3 were not essay length. It was just, is this the correct number? Is this the correct address? Do I need to include a code at the top of this form, kind of a thing, right? Yeah, simply.
Very direct questions.
Super direct questions,
you
right?
You bolded it.
Yep. Less is more, right? Short, direct, quick answers. You don't want an essay. And for those people to have responded to you with a soap operatic, melodramatic novel of an email, it misses the brief entirely. And it supports the point that you had made in a previous email, how ironic, that their correspondence has been subpar, that their correspondence has been lacking. And they took issue with that. And instead of answering your concise email, they wrote you a novel. And what gets me really miffed in that moment on your behalf, or if I were in your shoes, is like the double whammy of it all, the double hit, right? Like A, you didn't answer my email. and then B, you wrote me a short novella about just like riddled with your feelings when I didn't make any of this personal in any way.
I tried really hard not to make it personal.
Yeah, which is hard for us.
I just stated some needs and my impressions of how this correspondence has been going without pointing fingers, without dropping names, but just I'm beginning to be frustrated by the amount of times I've had to ask these questions. And the responses have been subpar. Can you please respond directly, concisely?
And I read your email with the word subpar in it. I told you it was professional.
Yeah.
It was so professional. It was not personal. There was you didn't dig in. You didn't add extra color needlessly. It was just like, I'm frustrated and this correspondence has been really subpar. I expect a little bit more efficiency, directness, objectiveness, commitment, like a pattern of response, call and response. I email, you respond, but you had in fact emailed many times over the course of almost 2 weeks and they did not respond. That's on them. But to throw it back at you, and I'm going to pick up what you said at the top, right? To try and alter your reality. Yes. One of my favorite lines about this is from the Mythbusters intro, right? I reject your reality and I substitute my own. And when someone does that, it's Adam Savage being funny, you know what I mean? But when someone does that, it gets me turned. It gets me all, I mean, when I smell it, when I feel that someone's trying to build a new virtual world in which they're right or the victim, and I'm somehow wrong for having asked a simple objective request, made a simple request. My gosh, does that set me off? And
this brings us into our topic for today. So
welcome to the Attention Different podcast. Tell us what we're talking about, Aaron. Hey, Steven here. Sorry to interrupt. We just wanted to take a brief moment to tell you about this week's sponsor. At Attention Different, our mission is simple. Offer ADHD adults proven practical strategies for living a more balanced, fulfilled ADHD life. And that is why we are thrilled to offer our latest course, Thriving with Adult ADHD. While other courses might focus on the pain and struggle of being an adult with ADHD, and we do not want to minimize that, this course is designed around accessible, relevant, and applicable techniques that address the most common challenges facing ADHD adults. Inside Thriving with Adult ADHD, you will learn how to create time management systems that are realistic and effective. Get organized by building routines and habits to bring structure to your days. You'll learn to find balance by optimizing medication, self-care, and professional support. Thriving with Adult ADHD features 2 hours of on-demand video, 10 downloadable resources, lifetime access to the material, and a satisfaction guarantee. Go to attentiondifferent.com/thriving to sign up now. That's attentiondifferent.com/thriving to sign up now. Hey, thanks for the quick break. Now back to the interview.
So I'm your host, Aaron Smith, and I'm here with Steven Tonti, co-host.
Hey, howdy.
We're the co-founders of Attention Different. And today we're going to be talking about a few different topics, including sensitivity and ADHD, or what some might call hypersensitivity, the ways in which trauma can carry over, secondary trauma. So all of the things that we're experiencing in this world right now that are very traumatic, that are going on.
Yeah.
How that, even if we're not directly there, right? If we see a video, if we hear about it, if we read about it, we're experiencing it secondarily. We're experiencing that secondary trauma, that vicarious trauma. And how this builds up to what psychologists call compassion fatigue. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's dive right into this, because it's a very intersectional show. We're going to be talking about a lot of overlapping concepts and narratives here. To come back to the intro on this, we just talked about, when people gaslight us, when their ego gets involved and they tell us that what we've heard, what we've seen, what we've witnessed is not real, and they tell us to spin a different narrative, that enrages us.
Yeah.
Right. And I wouldn't say it's just for ADHDers, but it's pretty much anyone who has eyes and can see stuff. And we've seen this happen very recently, right? Let's put the example of Kristi Noem, her press conference, and when they came out with their vile statements against Renee
Bovino, Noem, everyone involved
Alex,
Alex Preddy and Renee Good
Alex
stuff.
Preddy, where all of us saw with our own eyes, right? Yeah. Law enforcement, military folks, people who have been in the field and have been in situations like this, combat situations, policing situations. I have a friend who is a former police officer, was trained. He looked at that video, is like, no, there's absolutely no way. There's no, appropriate use of force here, right? He's like, we were trained not to stand in front of vehicles. That's right. Like day one in the academy is like, do not stand in front of a vehicle. You can do anything you want. You can shoot at the vehicle and it will still run you over. The vehicles are death machines. And you do not, that's why cops approach a vehicle from the side. They don't come in the front of the vehicle and they're like, hey guys, let's stop. No, like that's how you get run over. But it's beyond that, because obviously we saw the video and we saw Renee Good was turning, right? Mm-hmm. And we saw Alex Preddy never touched his gun. The only people that touched the gun were the ICE agents themselves.
The humans who removed his license concealed
and shot him in the back. Mm-hmm. So they were at no point threatened. But what were we told? To our face, we were gaslit by our own government, these people in power, telling us what we saw with our own eyes was not the truth. No, this person was a terrorist. This person was threatening, an agitator. Was trying to kill, ICE officers, interfere. He was helping someone that they pushed to the ground, a female that they pushed to the ground, right? Renee Good was trying to leave the situation because she felt threatened. That's what we saw. So what this does, the impact of this, that's what I want to talk about today. How do we deal with this? Because it enrages us, right? And we're sensitive to these kind of things. We can call it hypersensitivity. We can call it emotional flooding. Those are executive functioning attributes. I wouldn't even call them like dysfunctions, because I think depending on the context, I think it works for us. It works in our favor in a lot of contexts.
Yeah, I agree. I want to add that it can be disruptive, but it's not a dysfunction, right? That's like an important distinction. It can disrupt, but it's not a dysfunction. It can be actually a life-saving thing.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily it's not necessarily maladaptive.
Exactly. Right.
Like sometimes these types of reactions are warranted, necessary.
Yeah.
And our ability to tune in and be empathetic in the face of this kind of adversity and trauma is what builds what makes us perfectly suited for some types of careers. Oftentimes you see a lot of ADHDers in the helping professions, in social work, in emergency room services, in first responder, ambulance attendants, and those types of jobs where there's a rush, there's changing situations, there's an immediate need and urgency to be on. Yeah. ADHDers thrive in those situations.
Yeah.
But what happens is when we're at home on our couch, we're sitting in front of our screen and we see these clips come up on our social feed, or we're watching the news and we're inundated with this type of stuff. In those moments, it may not be as adaptive, because what happens is we get flooded and dysregulated, even for hours upon hours, maybe even days, right? Maybe even weeks. Has that been occurring for you at all in these recently with all this stuff going on?
Could you imagine if I said, no, I'm great? No, I have no idea what you're talking about here, and I've never experienced that in my life. I'd say that the most extreme example was in the lead up to the last presidential election, where I had grown what I will call, I don't know, somewhat with a grain of salt, an addiction, because it's not like I was addicted to the news in the way that someone can be addicted to their phone and social media, but I was abusing the substance of news media through phone, podcast, YouTube, etc., online.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned this before. You were watching like 6 hours of podcast news a day. Yeah.
And that kind of consumption, at the very least, screams this like desperate need for control. My external locus and internal locus of control feel absolutely out of whack. And so I'm desperately seeking something to give myself the sensation that I can, in some small way or big way, control the outcome of that thing. And when that thing didn't go the way I wanted it to, I was shattered. I mean, like shattered in a way that I know a lot of people listening were. Specifically to me, though, within that cycle, I put so much belief in the ability to control that outcome that when I found out I couldn't, it broke my spirit in a way that I haven't had broken in a while. And as Aaron knows, I did not listen to the news or politics podcasts or anything related to that election and to that, either Democratic or progressive socialist or far right, MAGA or conservative, anything related to those movements. I distanced myself from for, I think, 6 months. I think it was a half a year before I listened to NPR again, my dude, like morning edition. I was so shattered that I went from 6 hours a day of listening to 0 hours for 6 months. And now, years later, I've come back into the fold, but I'm a much improved girly. I can handle it. But to answer your question, so like there's two answers to your question. The one is I've seen the depths of that effect, where I was completely and totally absorbed and enveloped by it, right? So you asked the question, did it inform your daily life? It didn't just inform my daily life. It was like the captain, it was the person captaining the ship. It was the force driving the train. I was enveloped by it. Nowadays, I have a healthier relationship to it all. However, it is so extreme, the gaslighting behavior. It is so grotesque, the behavior of our White House and our admins and officials, our heads of state. It is so disgusting and violent and cruel and shameful that it is inescapable. I live in New Orleans. It's Mardi Gras season. If there were a time and a place where it was, quote, the easiest to distract yourself from all of that, I'm in it. I'm currently in it, right? Mardi Gras season, New Orleans, it's carnival time. The people here make it pretty easy to separate yourself from that world in a typical year. This year, I get the distinct sensation that conversations on a daily basis pendulum swing from how is your costuming going, right? Are you going to so-and-so's party? Are you going to be the grill master? Yada, yada. Violently pendulum swinging to, can you believe what happened to Alex Preddy? Did you watch Bad Bunny's halftime show? Fuck ICE. Are you going to the ICE meeting where we like train and change our backgrounds so they look like rules for how to film and document ICE if you see them kidnapping a citizen or non-citizen.
A human being.
A human being. That pendulum swing, or as my therapist would say, those vicissitudes, right? Those vicissitudes are really difficult to stand firm in the face of. Most of all, hope, right? It's really difficult to hold on to hope, which this time, Carnival and Mardi Gras, this party season is not just about like drinking drugs and hedonism, you guys. This is about catharsis. Mardi Gras is about a release. It's actually very spiritual. For some people, it's almost like a faith. There's just like the river Ganges, we go to the Mississippi River and some people pour the ashes of their loved ones into the river on Mardi Gras Day. It is a catharsis-based event, a purge-based event. And it's really annoying to be on your purge, if you will, to be on your catharsis journey, where every time you lift your head up, you hear RFK say something absolutely insane and fucked up.
It's nonstop. There's nonstop. another thing. So, and I guess that's right. Like depending on where you come from, your position of privilege, the community you come from, this is not new because a lot of people, especially people of color and marginalized groups, have been experiencing this on a daily basis, right? It's the onslaught of oppression that's happened over and over and over and over and over and has not stopped.
For hundreds of years.
For hundreds and hundreds of years. And I'm glad you brought up Carnival and Mardi Gras season, because actually that is a way that communities have been coping with trauma and anxiety.
For hundreds of years.
For hundreds of years, right? There's examples of this, of how we move and use our body.
Yeah.
And come together in celebration, whether those are dances or choreographed movements, like capoeira, right? Coming together is in dancing is a way to relieve that constant societal buildup of stress, fatigue, and overwhelm, in feeling a sense of togetherness and empowerment because you're coming together with a common purpose, a common cause, recognition of your beauty.
It restores sanity too. Its roots are in a cultural exchange of largely oppressed peoples, right? Those are the roots of these kinds of celebrations. And it's usually colonizers, persons of power and authority, et cetera, who project rules onto it, who project a structure or rules onto it and create boundaries. But the essence, the root of it, is those oppressed, those who are not of the privileged class, coming together, exchanging culture, and feeling a sense of togetherness, and that restores an amount of sanity that's invaluable
and resisting within the confines of whatever the current societal norm is. Like to be able to thread that needle. Oftentimes, I think historically, you had groups that they needed to express themselves and let out that collective rage, hope, whatever emotions are underneath. They had to express it. They had to let it go. They had to channel that through something, and they could do it with the excuse of, "Oh no, we're celebrating something that has to do with Christianity," or we're going to church and we're just singing these hymns, these Baptist, hymns or whatever, right? Like, oh no, it's not just about that, right? We can couch it in that language, but the energy and the message and stuff, if you know what's what's underneath.
YK. Mm-hmm.
All this to say, it's impacting folks with ADHD exponentially more because we are attuned to picking up on this stuff. We have a sense of injustice. We also have this sensitivity towards pattern recognition and seeing where things might go and the threats, that threat detection system, especially because most people who have ADHD have had some kind of either a multitude of traumas or, at least I'd say the vast majority of ADHDers have had compound complex trauma to some degree or another, just from existing in this world, or a very direct big T trauma.
Yeah. So
when we experience this stuff, we're not just experiencing it as someone who has not already been traumatized. We experience it in a re-traumatized way. We feel it in our nervous system. We're reacting to it from a nervous system level. That fight, flight, freeze, fawn, that is getting triggered on the daily.
In a morbid way, what you're saying is our nervous system has been trained for this.
It's been trained.
It's I've seen this movie before. I've seen this movie before, right? I've seen this trauma film before. This doesn't end well, right? Or I don't think this ends well for me and my family or my chosen family, right?
Yeah, we relate a lot of times to that ill treatment and mistreatment of our fellow human beings, and we see it for what it is. We're not blind to it. And I guess our listeners probably ask themselves, okay, yeah, I get it. We're all experiencing it. You may be nodding your head along. You may be agreeing to some of this stuff. And you might be saying, okay, well, what do we do, right?
Yeah.
What do we do?
What do we do, Aaron?
I wish I had a magic solution, but what I can tell you is we have to look to the past, right? And what we need to do involves a few different buckets here. One, we need to not suffer alone. We need to find community, those systems of support. We need to come together in solidarity.
Yeah.
If you're doing it in isolation, they're winning, right? In some ways, it's the divide and conquer. If they can force you into a state of fear and hopelessness and depression, and you isolate yourself, and you don't look at the news anymore, and you just resign yourself to this is happening. There's nothing I can do about it. Well, that complicity and complacency allows for this thing to still happen. So through our inaction, we're, in a sense, tacitly agreeing and helping to perpetuate the very same thing.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is get engaged on whatever level you can. It's not that everyone needs to be on the streets observing ICE or confronting these horrendous acts when they see it. Not everyone needs to put their bodies on the line, or not everyone needs to go to every protest that's happening. But search yourself. Think about, what are the skills that I have to give and to offer? What's my age and stage of life that I can offer, right? Whether is that a donation towards your community organization that's doing this work? Is it raising awareness? Is it writing blog pieces, sending letters to people, to op-eds? Is it
opening your house? Take it from the New Orleans kid. Opening your house and hosting people for dinner. We have community dinners down here.
Hosting and even just connecting with friends and family, asking people how they're doing, being of emotional support, reaching out to your neighbor. A lot of us don't even know our neighbors.
Thankfully, I live in a place where we are not so much the most Southern American city, but the most Northern Caribbean city. We know our neighbors. Yeah, we are. Yeah. But it's a different, I mean to make less of a joke of it. Famously, a guy in my neighborhood was holding court with his grandson, and he had just visited his cousin, and he was clearly trying to teach his grandson something, but we were all listening intently. And Emily and I, my partner and I, were waiting for our food. And I was like leaning in because he just sounded wise. And he said, I asked my cousin, he lives in Dallas, so who are your neighbors? Because clearly his cousin was originally from here in New Orleans. And the guy goes, I don't really know him. And he goes, man, you don't know your neighbors? There's not a single one. And he goes, well, I think I know the one guy to my right. And he goes, okay, what's his name? And he thought about it for a second. He was like, I don't know. And he goes, man, if you don't know who your neighbors are, whose name are you going to call out to when you're in trouble? Right? Like when you need help. And I was so struck by that. And then he proceeded to tell a story about how a guy was crushed by his own car in his driveway, and he didn't know his neighbors and wasn't able to call for help. And I'm shortening that story quite a bit. But the event, I leaned over and I looked at the grandson and I was like, you listen to your grandfather. He's a very wise man. And that's an old hundreds-year-old culture here in this city. And back to your original point, Aaron, it's due to corruption. It's due to the city being so bureaucratically corrupt and broken that its citizens have had to bake into the superculture of being born and raised here. You know your neighbors in New Orleans. You know your neighbors. You absolutely have to know your neighbors. In certain parts of New York, right? You know your neighbors, Queens, Brooklyn, et cetera. Like, you know who lives next to you, above you, beneath you. And I go back to that story that guy said, if you don't know your neighbors, whose name are you going to call when you need help?
That's what it's all about right now. Getting to know our neighbors even better. Especially, you may know their name, but invite them over for dinner.
Have a glass of wine. Get some cheese board going. Ask where they came from and what they do and what they did and what they're doing. I know it's scary because we've built this horrid world in which we've gaslit ourselves and each other into believing that, like, oh, they'll be mad, or they don't need, they don't want to know me, or like they're busy. They're busy, or they're going to end up being shitty neighbors anyway. I might as well just not even engage. No, like, I know that's how you're thinking. I know that's how you're feeling, because we all feel these feelings, but go do it anyway. This is the time, is what Aaron is getting at. Right now, there's never been a more important time to break through that insecurity and that ego and start forming a community. Start building your chosen family. This government wants you to be separated and divided.
And it's interesting because you never know, right? Like, so I know the neighbor right next to me, my next door neighbor. I won't name names, but what I'll do is I'll describe their political leaning, right? Mm. So the wife, an elderly couple, the wife was involved in education for years. So she's kind of she's more of a Democrat, progressive leaning kind of person. Her husband, he had voted Republican for years and years, grew up inundated in that world, right? Raised Republican, but he's not a Trump supporter. And I didn't know until I was talking to them, right? And I was just asking them, how are you guys doing? They watch my dog when I'm out of town.
Nice. Exactly. Hey, there you go.
I watch their dog when they go on vacation. So we just get to talking, and he's like, yeah, I voted Republican, but I can't get behind this stuff. Like, everything they're doing is not Republican. And he starts telling me how he really feels about this whole thing, and how he's like everyone else, he's shocked and offended by the affront on a lot of the norms, the political and social norms that we have been told, right? Whether they have been actualized or not in history is another place of argument, right? But those things of like, we have a Bill of Rights, we have a Constitution, we have freedom of speech, we have law and order and justice. We like all of these things we thought, these checks and balances in the system, we thought all that stuff was there to protect us and were ideals that we're striving for. And those things have just gone out the window, just been completely thrown out. So even Republicans, tried and true Republicans, are looking at this like, this is an aberration. What is going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known that or even heard that perspective if I would have just stayed in a place of judgment, right? Of like, maybe that person's conservative and I don't want to get into an argument. No, like, people are people. And if we can treat them that way, we have a chance to have a very real discussion about our own needs, because we all share way more in common in our collective needs. People are concerned about the same stuff, right? They want to have jobs that provide for their family, put food on the table. They're worried about grocery prices. They want to feel safe going out their door and not be targeted. Like, everybody wants those things. That's not a progressive or conservative agenda. That's just, we want rights and freedom, and we want to be able to have the liberty,
safety,
to walk outside,
freedom.
And, to subsist in our needs and not feel threatened with our safety just for existing.
Yeah. So give us another tip and trick. What else? Because also you use some words at the top of this that are new to me. I think it was like vicarious trauma.
Yeah, vicarious trauma.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm surprised I remembered that. So run me through some of these terms, these definitional terms for our listeners, and let's pick up another thread on what we can do about this very gray, tough, crunchy time of pro-social behavior. It's really hard to be pro-social in our behavior.
So a lot of times, like the word vicarious trauma, I'll get back to the solution in a second. The word vicarious trauma, it's talked a lot about in the helping fields, in social work, medicine, therapists. So that's where I first got kind of exposed to that concept, was in social work school. Because there's a lot of studies on that, of how helping professionals end up being traumatized just in their day-to-day work with their clients.
Copy.
When you help people, you see and hear constantly about their stories of their trauma. You're reading about it, you're seeing it, you're experiencing it. And that compassion that you feel in hearing those accounts starts to weigh on you. So that's essentially vicarious trauma, is how the indirect witnessing and hearing the traumatic events from others. And that could be seeing it again. It doesn't have to be even a
I
person
totally get
telling you. It could be watching that video.
Right, an ER doctor, an ER nurse, an ER surgeon, somebody who is constantly seeing a rotating door of like trauma, of like physical and mental anguish.
Yeah, and it also is like someone who is a drone operator in the military, right? Who has to go and maybe they're seeing something on a screen, but they're having to make a call of, when do I press that button and authorize that strike, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of those folks, my friend's father is one of these people who had to do that as part of his job in the military. and he has some PTSD from that. So that's where like I'm comparing this to when we see these videos that are out there, even on the news or on our social feeds, where everyone's holding their phones up, they're documenting this, which obviously like we need the documentation because they're being lied to. So I think it's great that we're doing.
Yeah, but to your point, they're all having some slice of this. They're all getting some slice of this then.
Yeah. So those people that are there standing there with their phone recording this, they're experiencing it. Like, yeah, I'm sure they're feeling traumatized, but then we all are getting it because they're posting the video, and then we're watching it. It's coming through our feeds. We're seeing it again and again and again. So to get back on to like what we can do, right? So yeah, come together as a community, support each other. Solidarity is really important, right? Standing with and supporting the causes.
Yeah.
That you care about, the values that you care about, the people that you care about. And you can do solidarity with your words, with your actions, with, voting with your pocketbook, like supporting things that that you feel are important to be supported right now, right? Maybe it's the ACLU, maybe it's your local food shelter, maybe it's
there are a number of blogs out there and even apps now that will point you in the direction of person of color owned stores, shops, like where you can act proactively to go do your shopping of all kinds of materials, anywhere from food to clothing to accessories to technology, et cetera, at Black owned or Black and brown owned, et cetera, like non-white owned establishments and companies. Like this is something we talk about in NOLA a lot too. But it, I
support local business. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, also, what an opportunity to march your whiteness into a store that is countercultural to you and learn some shit. Talk to someone, meet someone, get someone's name, form a relationship, and hopefully it's close by where you can walk, bike, or drive like 2 minutes. And maybe that becomes a regular thing, a place where you regularly shop. I don't know about you, but that was me and my partner back in LA, Little Ethiopia. I started to meet folks at the various cafes. It's like 2 blocks of Los Angeles, where it's like Ethiopian market after Ethiopian market and restaurant. And eventually we're invited to like their version of high tea, like a tea ceremony in the afternoon. And I remember sitting with all these Ethiopian moms and ladies who run the shop with Marley and I, like getting to sit and have tea with them for an afternoon. And that one of the most cherished memories from Los Angeles, right? Because the courage and vulnerability it takes for anybody to leave the comfort of their home and go to a place that you normally would not go based on principles and values that you cherish and that you wish to act on. I don't know that I have the proper words for the experience that a person can have on. I mean,
it's not
being conscious like this.
Well, it's not that complicated. I would say the word is being open-minded.
Okay. Yeah. But the feedback though, I mean, the feedback that we get, the return on that investment, right? To be gross and businessy about it. But when you commit to that bit, the expansiveness that you get from this, I open-minded, yes. And also growth potential. Growing can be painful. There are growing pains. It can be tough. But the results of choosing to try and grow and expand, the results of choosing to expanding your understanding of humanity, I don't know, they're precious. They're priceless. You will know it when you are contributing in a non-toxic way to your community. The return that you get will be a smile, a hug, a thank you, a game recognized game, that human quality, that humanity building.
We have an opportunity to do this when we go on vacation. If you ever have the privilege opportunity to go travel abroad and you go to another country, don't do the thing of staying on a resort or surrounding yourself in just the touristy parts of town.
Boring.
Yeah. Go to some local spot that's off the beaten path. Ask the fruit vendor what's a good spot to
get a haircut. Dude, you know how many times I've gotten a haircut in a foreign country because I wanted to like try and explain in a broken language like the way I cut my hair and watch them kind of drink it in and like I'll kind of throw their culture at my head. Do you know what I mean? Like get a haircut. Go dine out. getting out into the street and meeting people, making eye contact, smelling the smells, feeling the feelings. You can't do that from a 4-star resort on the beach.
Yeah, my wife recently, she's on a sabbatical and she is traveling all around Central and South America right now. And she was in a small town in Costa Rica. I think it was Turrialba, Costa Rica. And she was doing an immersion Spanish language study experience there. And what was interesting was one of the most profound experiences wasn't even her host family or the school that she was attending there. She was after her class one day, she went and she walked to a local to get some ice cream, right? From a local to a park. And there was a little vendor there with a little pop-up shop that, it was just on the side of the road selling ice cream. And she was like on a whim, it's like, that looks good. Let me buy an ice cream, right? Then starts talking to them. And she was like, oh my God, this ice cream is so delicious. Like, what did you do? Like she starts exclaiming over the ice cream. Like it was so fresh. They had mixed like fruits in it. Like I don't know if it was like guanabana or something in the ice cream that was just like so fresh. And she was just like, oh my God, she's exclaiming over this ice cream. And they were like, oh yeah, we're new. We're brand new. We just started like a couple months ago and, they were a family business. And so then she starts to just talk to them, get to know them. And of course, they're so friendly. I mean, Costa Ricans, Ticos are just some of the kindest, friendly folks out there.
So true.
And so they start talking. And they're like, oh, I want to introduce you to my husband and my daughters. And so they literally, the woman calls her family and has them come over to meet my wife and start talking to her. And because she's like, oh yeah, I want them to meet you. They want to practice a little bit of English too. So she's getting to practice Spanish. She's learning about them. She's getting to be friends with them. They hung out for like 3 or 4 hours that day.
Wow.
Just talking.
No, yeah, hang out, a real hang.
Yeah. And then the next day she went back. They hung out for another 3 or 4 hours. And it was like those kind of experiences, which you're not going to find this on TripAdvisor. This isn't something you can plan for, but it's something you can be open for. So that's why I say like open-mindedness. Yeah. Be open to expanding your horizons, getting outside your comfort zone. Yes, it can be scary sometimes to do that. Yeah. But as you said, Stephen, it's one of the most profound things we can do to stretch ourselves and grow.
Oh my God, it's so important.
And it's okay to feel to feel sometimes that I'm uncomfortable. It's good for us to experience
embrace the discomfort, right? Like this is where any mentor or yogi or any spiritual or meditative leader that I've had has said something to the effect of embrace the discomfort. There is a level of, in fact, you taught me eustress versus distress, right? Eustress versus distress. There is a eustress is positive stress. There's a level of positive stress that we as primates, primatologically and neurologically, physiologically, we benefit from a certain level of stress. You watch Olympic athletes, right? Or professional athletes. Okay, clearly it takes a great deal of work, effort, and stress on the body to get to those shapes and to those abilities and to those practices, right? But it's good. It ends up being profound, impressive. It takes stress for your wife to learn Spanish and for you to learn Spanish and for you to immerse yourself in a country and a culture where you struggle. But through the struggle, there's ice cream. And 4 hours of an incredible conversation in a country that you're falling in love with. And that, it's trying to capture all of that. I can't, because you have to try it. You have to go feel it. That pro-social experience, that compassionate cultural exchange is so healthy for our brains. It's so healthy. And for ADHDers especially, my God, it checks all the boxes. Empathy, curiosity, creative thinking, expansive frontal cortex. It serves the neurodivergent.
This reminds me of so in terms of the solutions, so you brought up the aspect of control. When we feel out of control, oftentimes the ego wants to reassert a sense of control. But all of these things are unpredictable. We don't know the outcomes here. We have no idea. what's going to happen to any of this stuff. We don't know. It's all out of our control. And it's scary because as much as we'd want to reassert some sort of control to find safety again, we don't have power oftentimes to directly impact some of those very things that would return us to safety.
Yeah.
It's not an option. So the option for us is to be okay with ambiguity and work with that. It's okay to not know, to have things that are happening around us where there's still a sense of not knowing what will happen. What we can do in those moments is come back to this place of trusting in yourself and in your community and in the deeper vestiges of knowledge, kind of your gut, that if you act and put yourself out there in ways that align with your belief system and your values, you put yourself out there, even if it's scary, and sometimes it will be a risk. You will risk your safety. Like that's part of the in unsafe circumstances and times, no one is safe, right? When one group and one people are being oppressively brutalized and attacked, no one is actually safe. Even if they haven't put the ire on you yet, right? Even if you're
immortalized in the famous poem, right? First they came for, then they came for, then they came for, then there was no one left to protect me, to speak for me. Yeah. What things do you do, Aaron, on a granular level as we get close to rounding out? Like this can be a list, a TLDR. Like I write down a list of 10 things that I love about living life and my family and my dog and my hometown. Or like when I really am about to crash out or burn out, I go to the 7-Eleven and I get a Slurpee and a pack of bubble gum. Is there a grab bag of technique that you use as even a practitioner of therapy and coaching, right? Like when you have felt the near burnout of vicarious trauma, what are some things that you do to counteract that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll answer it in this way. One, I try to put on my oxygen mask first before going out and doing something for someone else. So what that looks like is self-care. I check it with myself first. What do I need? Do I need some extra sleep? Do I need to take some breaks? Do I need to get outside?
Oh my God. Extra sleep. Let's just make sure that there's like a rainbow, Ian, going across the thing. Like sleep is fundamental. Okay. So maybe fitness, go outside, nutrition.
Take some extra breaks. Maybe go a little bit slower, slow down. It's a big one that we forget, but it's like we need to slow our pace.
So
that
true.
Anxious. When our nervous system is triggered, we just get amped up. And what we need to do is breathe, slow our pace down, and instead of pushing it and forcing it, that energy of forcing, slow it down, remind ourselves, one step at a time.
Yeah, I notice it while walking the dog. I'm the most quickly that I notice it is if I'm taking Lila on a walk and I'm like fucking burning through that walk, like I'm cruising on the sidewalk, it'll hit me in like a block or two. I'll be like, dude, like this walk is for her. You know what I mean? Like this is so that she can enjoy being outside and like do her business. Yeah. And you are burning rubber through this.
And what I do oftentimes is I'll mindfully like slow my pace down. I'll take in the scenery around me. I'll kind of ground myself with, let me listen to the birds. Let me pay attention to the leaves on the trees. Let me pay attention to the breeze on my skin. I'll tune into the moment and what's going on around me, because that's the thing that reminds me of my being human, my existence, my being. I get out of this zone of just thinking about the past or the future or the worry, the fear, and get into the present of experiencing what is happening right now. So I do that.
So oxygen mask first. So oxygen mask first.
And movement, like you said. So exercise, dance, play a song in your house and dance, right? Like stretch, do some yoga, do something that moves your body.
Can I recommend a 1-minute technique? This comes from an old friend. It's called the silly dance. Now, I want you to, I'm so serious. You have to close your eyes. That's part of this. But you pick a favorite song. You play it in a room. If you're with friends, you can also do this with a group. It's even cuter if you do this with a group, but everyone has to close their eyes because the point is you don't want to be shamed. This is not a shame space. You close your eyes and you set a timer on your phone, or you do it for the whole length of a song. That's pretty metal. That's a commitment. And you dance as silly as you possibly can alone in your room with your eyes closed. So you're not looking at yourself in the mirror. You're not catching a reflection of yourself in the window. It's eyes shut. Make sure there's no glass or anything nearby that you might break, right? Or smack your hands into. But you get noodly with it. Get weird. And it's got to be at least a minute. It's called the silly dance.
And there's even communities that do this ecstatic dance.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
Getting out of your head and that self-judgment, that self-referential.
And it's 1 minute. Just 60 seconds. You'll laugh at yourself. Let yourself go. Yeah. Ecstatic dance is really, we can get to a meditative state after the 30, 45 minute mark. So you've got movement, you've got outdoors, you've got mindfulness practices, going for a walk. Sleep is fundamental.
Breathing, meditation.
Breathing.
And then another one I'll mention is creation. I recently came across this, and I think I was reminded of this from indigenous knowledge that's been there for a long time. This person posted, like there was an indigenous person that kind of like posted this comment about the stuff. And he basically was just like, what we do and what we have been doing in the face of things like this is we create. Like if you're not creating something, you're not doing anything about the very thing. You're not contributing in ways that can help the situation. So when I say like creating stuff, that can be things like crafts, can be art, can be painting, it can be music.
Meals.
It could be sharing food. Yeah.
Meals, creating a meal. Like, yeah.
Or creating forming an organization or a group or a book club.
Building a thing.
But create. So in the face of stuff like this, the powerful want us to be powerless and to resign ourselves to not doing things. But if we can find those things that rejuvenate us, and for me, I've oftentimes through suffering and loss, had multiple folks who I've known, who I've lost over the years, who have passed away. And through some of these horrible experiences, I've organized murals and community murals and painting.
Yeah.
And that's such a profoundly healing experience is to paint. So I've done this with veterans. I've done this with groups of folks that were, substance users on the Lower East Side of New York who are seeking treatment. I've done that with them, dual diagnosis, mental health, and substance use, and had them honor their own family members and loved ones that have passed away and paint images and symbols inside of murals for them. And it's such a healing experience. And so, like, I think we, in some ways, trivialize and demonize stuff that isn't capitalist, right? Like, oh, how is that going to make you money? Or is that?
Oh, we absolutely.
It only has a value if it makes money.
Oh, yeah.
But we forget the real value of stuff isn't money. A lot of these ancient practices, whether it's beading, tapestry, ceremony, dance, any of those things that humans have done for millennia, those have significant healing properties and powers that we have taken for granted. And we need to bring a lot of that stuff back now.
Yeah, we've commodified it. We've commodified a healing practice.
And don't do it because you want to sell something or it's on trend. Do it because it is a way to process the emotions, this collective pain, and maybe even to document stuff. If I may add a layer, 30,000 feet above, just like a broad strokes thing, it can also be an energy container. So like I've been having a conversation recently with friends about, very close friends of mine, 18 years long friends, soul siblings who moved here to New Orleans. And the three of us are ADHD, go figure. And we're artists. And we were talking about the you're too much or you're not enough yin and yang of it all, right? For ADHDers, right? Either being too much or not enough. And in the too much category,
an insecurity and a fear can bubble up in us adults with ADHD of having either A, too much energy, or B, not enough control of our energy within certain contexts, right? Like we may not have enough of it at 9 a.m. and then it's overflowing at 6 p.m., right? I picked up drumming again and joined a band, and we could get into the weeds about it, but I'm going to speak just to Aaron's point here. If this band were to go on tour and make some money, I'm going to be really frank with this audience. Me playing in a band and playing the drums is not about money. That's not what I get from this. What I get from this is band practice. I get to be with musicians, having those little crystalline moments of genius when wordlessly, soundlessly, Sam, our band leader, will just start playing something on the keys, or I'll start playing something on the hi-hat, and then he sits down on the keys and just starts throwing something down. We haven't said anything to each other. We are communicating through music, which is its own language. And to tap into that language, to use your body and your soul instead of words and money and dollars and cents to create something, and to do that for 2 to 3 hours, it's an energy container. I need to put this energy somewhere. It's got to go in the gym. It's got to go in cooking food on the grill. It's got to go on building a community. It's got to go to running this company with Aaron. This energy, all this energy that I have has to go somewhere. I'm constantly searching for containers for this energy. And the drums have come back into my life, have come back into my life as a very profound, productive and efficient container for that energy, for that spirit, that energy. And the reward I get back from it is priceless. It's spiritual. It's a spiritual world. There is no value to that reward. It feels like being taken care of. It feels like in a spiritual way, literally coddled. Like I feel coddled by this thing.
It reminds you of your essence. It's where we can reach those flow states.
Dude, oh my God. They literally call it the pocket and the flow. There are like two types of drumming things where you're like in the pocket and then you go achieve flow, but you got to get in the pocket first. You know what I mean? And when you know that as athletes, as musicians, dancers, physical movers, spiritual healers, music makers, art makers, you know what we're saying when we say the pocket and the flow. That, anyway, speaking of, I have therapy in 3 minutes.
Well, this is a good place to wrap. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful for everyone.